When I started wedding planning, I actually took a job at Saks Fifth Avenue at Vera Wang Bridal Salon. That's where my client was. My client was buying Vera Wang. We started Diamond Affairs in 2001, gone from taking everything that comes our way and never saying no. And that's what you learn in wedding planning is never say no. You figure it out.
Will forever be the founding president of WIPA DFW. We are so thankful for that.
We were the biggest chapter in the country in 1 year, and then COVID hit. I think as long as you align yourself with like-minded partners, then you know that you can trust them and they can trust you. Once that level of trust is created, it's going to go seamlessly.
It was one of the most successful events that WIPA Dallas has ever done.
So exciting. Yeah, we had sideways rain.
If you see the photos and you see the people, you would never know that there was a storm right outside the tent. 25 years in the industry, you recently lost your Instagram.
It's hard to show off your latest and greatest things without an Instagram account, but it doesn't define me. It reminded me of why I got into the business. When we didn't have Instagram, you had to hustle and get out there. Diamond Affairs has gone through 2 recessions, the pandemic, 9/11, all the things that fluctuate the financial budget of a wedding we've been through, and we've been able to get through it.
Behind every beautiful wedding is a story worth preserving. Hi, I'm your host, Andrea, founder of the nation's premier bouquet preservation studio. Through building that company, I've had a front row seat to thousands of weddings and the incredible professionals behind them. On Bridal Club, I bring you conversations with the experts shaping today's weddings. It's for couples planning their perfect day and the pros who make it happen. Welcome to the club, to Bridal Club.
Welcome back to Bridal Club. I have a very special guest today. She is a legend when it comes to weddings. If you're a wedding vendor, I know you know who she is. Her company is celebrating the silver anniversary this year, and I'm just so excited to have her on the podcast. I have learned a lot just by conversations with wedding planners specifically, that a lot of people that are in their 40s, even sometimes 30s, are already looking to exit the business. And it really blows my mind. So today's guest is really going to tell us how to stay relevant throughout a whole career of 25 years plus. And she's going to guide us through how to prioritize your life and not only your business. She has 3 beautiful kids, happily married, 25 years. And I am just so excited to learn more about her story. Help me welcome Mary Wright Shah to today's episode. Mary, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. I feel like you and I have been having a conversation about you coming on the podcast for a few months now, right?
Yes. Yes, almost a year actually. Since we met in May last year.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Well, for those who may not know who you are, please introduce yourself and tell us more about your story.
Well, I am Mary Wright Shah. My company is Diamond Affairs Weddings and Special Events. We've been in Dallas, Texas for 25 years. We have built our business on relationships with our clients and with our creative partners throughout the years, which continue to gain momentum and they continue to party like rock stars. So the legacy clients that we have built throughout our time has really been the foundation of my business.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier, a lot of people, even my age, I'm 35, by the way, but even my age are really already looking into exiting the business, it just blows my mind. Tell us a little bit more about where your journey started and how you are so passionate 25 years later.
My journey started in hospitality. I come from a hotel restaurant management background. I worked with Rosewood Hotels and Resorts. My first luxury hotel was the Hotel Crescent Court and the Mansion on Turtle Creek when they were both owned by Rosewood. And so coming from that luxury background really elevated my style of service. It elevated my expectations of creative partners, but also to extend those of my clients and make sure that they were getting exactly what they were paying for. So it was an incredible training, an amazing backbone to work with those teams behind the scenes and in front of house to make sure that the events go smoothly. So leaving the Crescent, there was a wonderful wedding planner that I fell in love with. She was as OCD as I was at the time, and she needed a partner to take on some weddings. And I had already established these relationships with vendors and with creative partners and locations that it was a very smooth entrance into the world of wedding planning. At the Crescent, we did all corporate events, but I was in charge of mainly weddings there. So it really opened my eyes to so many opportunities, so many cultures, so many different price points, but still that same level of luxury service throughout. All you had to do was arrive. We would take care of all of it. So I went into wedding planning with that mentality that we would just take care of all of it. We were providing so much service at the time. And It was a very seamless introduction into the business. A few years later, she was ready to retire and wanted to close her business. We offered to buy it. She didn't want to sell. She just wanted to retire gracefully.
Wow.
And so we started Diamond Affairs in 2001. And so it's been a journey. We have gone from taking everything that comes our way and never saying no. And that's what you learn in wedding planning is never say no. You figure it out.
Yeah.
And continually educating myself. And so when I started wedding planning on my own, I actually took a job at Saks Fifth Avenue at the Vera Wang Bridal Salon at the Galleria.
Wow.
And I did it because I knew at the time that's where my client was. My client was buying Vera Wang, and I wanted to be in that dressing room with her and meet my clients. That was my client that I wanted.
Wow.
And so I took a part-time gig at Saks, and it was the most amazing experience just being in the fashion world and really understanding Vera Wang and the construction of the gowns, the ins and outs of it, and how to accommodate a bride on a completely different level in custom couture.
Wow.
And so it was so exciting for me because I already had the food and beverage background. I had the hospitality background, but the fashion side, I mean, that's where it all begins is with that gown. And that gown really creates that backbone to the planning process.
Yeah.
It creates the moment that tends to design the whole wedding. It might be a piece on the invitation that has the lace pattern, or it might be on the wedding cake, or it might be in the linen. It can be in so many different places now, but to give the guests a little teaser of what's to come is so exciting, whether it's a pleat or a lace pattern or a monogram on the interior of her gown, whatever it may be. It's such a huge, fashion really is such a huge statement for us as we design a wedding.
Wow.
So it really, again, continued my education on weddings in a completely different way. And to elevate my style of service, I had to know couture. And so even though I didn't shop couture and I had to look like I did, and I had to know that I did, and to be able to help a bride find the right gown was so exciting.
Oh my God.
To match her silhouette, to match her style of wedding, if it was a beach wedding or if it was a black tie affair and she wanted Duchess satin instead of something flowy and organza. So knowing those details helped then leap me forward and parlay more of the design expertise that I gained over time of knowing fabrics and textures and textiles, and then playing that into the weddings. And at the time, we did not have access to what we have now.
Right.
And so pushing the limits and really finding vendors, finding design houses that would create custom linens for us. And that was stepping outside of the box that we had here. So it was really innovative continuously. So as I grew, probably 5 to 10 years in, I wanted to be an innovator and not do the same cookie cutter wedding. I wanted to walk into a wedding, into a venue that we've used a million times and approach it differently. How do we enter as a guest in a completely different way so that the last 5 weddings that these girls went to, they're totally surprised? How can we turn it into an element of surprise at every turn?
I think you do an amazing job. I was so excited to experience your event when we worked together. I say work together, but you planned the whole thing. But it was absolutely stunning. It was actually about a year ago, correct?
Yes.
The WIPA event at Arlington Hall. And it was absolutely beautiful. You did such a great job. I was really excited to obviously meet you in person because I had followed you for a while, but then also see how you carry yourself that day. And you were like just a guest. I was like, how is she not even stressed? She's just like, talking to people because everything was already planned. Everything was already set. As you said, the vendor team is so important and so crucial that you were just relaxed on that day. So I cannot even imagine the way that you do that for your clients as well.
I think as long as you align yourself with like-minded partners, then you know that you can trust them and they can trust you. Once that level of trust is created, then you know it's going to go seamlessly. And you have the right people in place to make it happen. And if we do have a snafu, which we always have something that goes wrong, like it poured rain that day.
It was one of the most successful events that WIPA Dallas has ever done because everybody wanted to be present because of what you produced.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so exciting. Yeah, we had sideways rain. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
That tent held out and there was no leak.
If you see the photos and you see the people, you would never know that there was a storm right outside the tent. Yeah, that's what you do. I love it. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about the education part of it. That blew me away, by the way. The fact that you went to to study couture just to understand your clients better. For how long were you at Saks?
I was there probably for 2 to 3 years.
Really?
And we created like the first bridal show that they ever had. We were able to use that as a tool to start bringing business to the salon, but also bringing vendors in and bringing photographers in to really represent all the gowns that were there and really elevate it. Because at the time, their competitor was Neiman Marcus Bridal and Stanley Korshak. And that was it. That was all that was in town. And there were a handful more that started right after Vera Wang left. I was there for about 2 or 3 years. Once my wedding business started really taking off and I was taking quite a few more weddings, I couldn't do it anymore.
You know, it's time to leave when time is the only constant. Like, you cannot do more unless you have more time. I feel that because I obviously went through the same thing with my business. You also are an educator. You actually were you will forever be the founding president of WIPA DFW. And we are so thankful for that. As you guys know, I've talked about WIPA countless times because I'm on the board. But the fact that you were the first, like, tell me more about that experience. Why did you decide to go into that role and what it means to you today?
It was interesting. WIPA was started in California, and it started moving its way over to the east. And then it opened in New York City. And the biggest chapter at the time was Colorado, and it was a state chapter. And that's what we thought Dallas was going to become, because it was hard enough to introduce a new organization that people wanted to be a part of. But what we realized, what was happening in our wedding market and around the country, was that our partners were starting to become a smaller community within each other. They would start grouping together your team of wedding vendors that you would rely on every weekend. And we realized the luxury market was really getting larger and larger here in Dallas, and we needed something to bring everyone together. And at the time, WIPA was a great opportunity and a platform to continually educate ourselves and see how to deal with anything from contracts to recession to helping with social media and posting and marketing. And I think really just gaining momentum on the education of how to have a successful luxury wedding business. And so we wanted to bring it to Dallas. And I was invited to WIPA, Colorado for their wedding week. They had a WIPA retreat, and it was in Vail, and everyone from the state came in. And I saw how they gathered and were so close together. And coming from a background in the early 2000s that everyone was so competitive, it was so cutthroat. You didn't share or you didn't have a communal moment to really, there wasn't one for weddings specifically.
Okay.
There was NACE, there was MPI, there were a few wedding organizations that were just for wedding planners, not for other wedding vendors to really partake and communicate and have this community. Jordan Kahn invited me to go to Colorado and really get to know the WIPA experience and why it's so important for Dallas to have a chapter. So we took off and we did an open house at Arlington Hall. We invited everyone. It was like a town hall meeting to talk about how we needed this as a platform just for wedding specific vendors and to elevate one another. But what was cool about WIPA internationally is that you could access the library of knowledge. And so if Sydney Novotny was speaking in New York City, you could hear that session and actually gain more information, gain more opportunities to improve your business. So you constantly were educating yourself. You had access to all of these amazing meetings that were happening all over the country. And so I think that was a really awesome thing where you didn't have to travel to Aspen, Colorado to go to that one meeting because that one speaker was presenting. You could actually watch it online.
What year was this when you founded the Dallas chapter?
It was 2019.
2019. Oh, it's actually not that long ago.
It's not that long.
It's crazy.
We were the biggest chapter in the country in 1 year, and then COVID hit.
Oh, okay.
So 2020 hit.
Yeah.
And my board stayed on. And we developed a community so tight to try to keep us all afloat. My husband and I actually did a few Zoom meetings with all the small wedding businesses to talk about how to survive this.
Oh my gosh.
And so we talked about the PPP loan and the EIDL loan and everything to do with the SBA so that everyone can survive this. And I know you have to make your mortgage, but you're not going to see that next deposit.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to see the cancellation policies are for some reason not working in our market. It was so hard to get a cancellation deposit back or
Right.
the full payment if the wedding was right around the corner. I don't know. I think it really gave me an opportunity to continually educate those around me to help them stay afloat. I knew I was going to be okay. We had weddings on the books until 2022 already.
Yeah.
So it's, even though those got pushed a year or got pushed another year, we had continually had business already coming in. But I think we were financially prepared for whatever happens. Diamond Affairs has gone through 2 recessions. We've gone through the pandemic. We've gone through 9/11, all the things that fluctuate the financial budget of a wedding.
Yeah.
We've been through and we've been able to get through it.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that. I love business. I've been in business for 10 years. My husband had a business that he actually went bankrupt in '08. It was really bad.
It was terrible.
Yeah. And so right now is basically kind of like going through the same thing with the spike of the rates. He's in the car industry and it's been incredibly difficult, but it really just forms you. It really does build a lot of character going through so much, because ultimately sometimes when you go through a lot, most people are not going to make it.
When we all went online and we had our WIPA meeting, it was really just trying to hold each other up.
Yeah.
And who was going to survive this? And as a WIPA chapter just newly started, it was really interesting to kind of see how it all shook out.
Yes.
And a lot of movement, surprisingly. I think the majority of us did very well.
Yeah, good. I mean, right now, I don't know if you know this, but it is the biggest chapter in the whole country. Right now, we have 25 chapters, which is insane. And I think there's 2 in formation, but we have about 300 members. And you have to be in business for 3 years for you to be able to join.
Yeah.
The whole WIPA organization in the whole United States, it has 3,500 members now.
We had 100. And I thought that was like winning.
Yeah.
I'm so proud and so excited to see the growth of it. But also the members have evolved and grown with it, with WIPA. But to see the foundation that we built and then
I'm telling you guys, she's a legend. I didn't mean that lightly, when I said that in the introduction. I think all wedding vendors in the industry should know who you are. And if they're in Dallas, I'm guaranteed they already know who you are. I also want to talk to you about having your family. I know you prioritize your beautiful children and your marriage. You just mentioned right before we started filming that you are also celebrating the silver anniversary with your husband as well. Tell us a little bit more about that too.
We got married in 2001. I was already in the wedding planning business. We got married Memorial Day weekend. We had 2 weddings. A Mexican Catholic wedding and an Indian wedding. It was crazy cultural, but it was the perfect match of cultures. They both like to party and have a great time, and they dance all night long. It was a perfect blend of families. It was all about family. I mean, it was huge, and we had so much fun. We told everyone they couldn't wear black, so it was very colorful, and it was an incredible celebration. And we are celebrating this weekend. And then we started Diamond Affairs just a few months later in July. I feel like the journey of having a marriage in this wedding business is challenging. And we decided to wait to have children until both of our businesses were established.
I'm like literally on the same boat right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm like learning so much as you were speaking.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
There was nothing holding us back, but I think we just wanted to make sure that our relationship was established and our marriage and we were ready to take on kids.
Yeah.
You're never ready, but we went for it.
How long did you wait, if you don't mind me asking?
It was about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
So once we really gained momentum is when I got pregnant. It was the best reward. I think having a wedding planning business when they're young is so much better because now that I'm established and I can be more selective in the business that I take, I'm there when it's really mattering right now. And so it's high school, it's college tours, it's a lot of big, huge decisions.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a plan for me to be there right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's great.
By the way, I don't know if you knew this or not, but she's Mexican-American. I had no idea until she heard me speaking Spanish earlier. I'm like, wait, what? I don't know why I thought she was from the Middle East. Perhaps your last name because of your husband, right?
Yes.
But that makes so much sense. The way you produce all these beautiful weddings, and a lot of them are multicultural. It started with your own wedding, with the big families and everything.
It did. I think culture in different religions has really allowed me to continually educate myself on what's important to those families. But what I realized with different religious backgrounds, it really is the family that stems the traditions and what part of the religion they're going to incorporate into that wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done many Jewish weddings, and I feel like every one of them is a little bit different because of their family traditions. And I feel like mine was different because I grew up going to weddings in Mexico and having all the padrinos and all the different gifts that are brought to the altar and how important those were. And it was so important to me to have that.
I love that. Where
Where my husband, for the Hindu wedding, we did it all in Sanskrit. So nobody could understand any of it, but we had a translator. And so we had so many really cool moments that were important to each other's families. But then it was just all brought together and blended so well. And I feel like we approach every wedding that way, where it's how can we incorporate the couple, but also their family and how they grew up and really understanding the foundation and what's important to them. And religious or not, I feel like that's where you really build a beautiful wedding is from how they grew up and what they know and what they love and what they have passion in.
Yeah, I love that so much. So for those who are thinking about exiting, I mean, it is they're already thinking about that. There's nothing really you can do, right? However, for those that are like, I just don't know how I'm going to handle my family and marriage, all the things that I have going on in my personal life, but then also my business, what advice would you give them?
Well, just like me starting out, I had to get another job. It's like you got to survive somehow.
Yeah.
And I would totally invite someone to get a job in the industry, whether it's a bridal salon or it's a rental company, wherever you're going to meet new brides is also another opportunity. But I think really educating yourself in a whole nother platform is so important. We've had planners that are editors for photographers that are on the side. They need a side gig, or some work for the magazines and work on the wedding side so that they are meeting all the advertisers, they're meeting vendors, they're constantly educating themselves on the opportunities that Dallas has to offer. Some don't have to work and they're doing nonprofit and they're getting involved in the community just to build relationships.
Yeah.
And I think depending on how their lifestyle is, and hopefully they don't exit our industry, but if they have to, they have to. You have to know going in, you need a side hustle to really gain momentum. Because if you don't have the relationships and you don't know anybody in our market, you have to get out there and sweat it out.
Right. And once you have the momentum, because that's where the conversations are starting right now. Being a wedding planner, your weekends are full of activities with your career, but then also you have kids.
Right.
So I think where people are struggling a little bit is like, I just don't know how I'm going to raise my kids correctly and be present. And then also entrepreneurship is hardcore. However, in the wedding industry, it's even possibly more, because again, late nights, the weekends are events.
Right. Well, I had a lot of great help. I had a grandmother that lived with us.
Okay.
I had part-time nannies that would help me in the hustle. I've had college girls that would help me all summer long. Yep. It's like you kind of have to pre-book.
Yep.
And sometimes my money that I would make from my weddings would go to the help I was paying for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because to be able to gain momentum in the business, you have to really put yourself out there and you have to be at everything and you have to show face and you have to network and you have to be relevant in the industry. And being relevant is being present and it's being out there and showing your face. And trust me, if I don't put my face out there, nobody's going to remember that I'm around.
And that's the thing that I love about you. Again, 25 years in the industry, you recently lost your Instagram account, which honestly, I know this sounds like I'm just exaggerating, but so much of our business really does rely on that one platform. It's incredible, especially in the wedding industry. A lot of people would be broken like literally, I bet.
It was devastating.
Yeah.
It was so heartbroken. I had that Instagram account and those followers ever since Instagram started. So the only thing that lasted was my Facebook account. It was weird. They were connected, but the person that took over my Instagram did not take over the Facebook
So was it hacked or is that what happened?
Completely hacked.
Oh my gosh.
And I even paid in Bitcoin. I tried everything.
Yeah.
And then they gave us the wrong passwords to log back in.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. But here's what I'm trying to say, right? Like at the end of the day, if you are so relevant because of everything that you have built, it's not going to break your business.
It really isn't. But it did take me a couple of days to really realize that.
Gosh, of course.
It's reminding myself of how I got there. And it really is an extension of my brand. It is an extension of my website. And if my website's not current, which it's not that current right now, then, it's hard to show off your latest and greatest things without an Instagram account.
Right.
Without this incredible platform to be able to show off my latest work. I've been through a few different accounts just to try to level off and be more secure in what I'm doing, but it doesn't define me. And I think that it took me a few days and a few weeks to really understand that. It reminded me of why I got into the business. When we didn't have Instagram, you had to hustle and get out there and be present with your creative partners that you wanted business from. You had to take them to dinner. My marketing dollars was spending time with them in the dining room or in a restaurant or at coffee, constantly being in front of people. And it reminded me that I still have to do that.
Lately, when things go wrong, and I say really wrong, I have learned to thank God that something went wrong, because I know that I have to trust him and I know that things are going to be better. And typically they teach me really big lessons and I'm not going to make those mistakes again.
Huge.
So, yeah.
It was God's way of telling me like, okay, it's time to pump the brakes. I have to reevaluate anyway. And I feel like every 5 to 10 years, we reinvent the wheel and reinvent ourselves and we rebrand or whatever we're going to do with ourselves. But I feel like in the industry, in our wedding creative space, you have to constantly reinvent yourself.
Yes, that's so true.
It was awful when it happened, but it was the right thing at the time.
Wow.
And it's taken me a while to realize that.
Yeah.
I think it's allowed me to then really inspect what I was doing on Instagram and actually start posting with intention. And even though I don't do it as often as I used to, and I used to have a girl that, you know, in my team that used to post for me every Friday, but we don't need to anymore. And I felt like it was not intentional. And I really feel like posting needs to be intentional. It also needs to be curated because we have such an elevated luxury clientele. I have to be respectful of my discerning clients.
That makes sense. What would you tell somebody who doesn't want to go through what you did? And I hope that we all learn from you. What have you done differently outside of the two authentication process?
Well, so really the staying as safe as possible. Don't respond to any email. The way I got hacked is because I was in the process of getting Meta certified because I hadn't been yet. And I wanted to make sure it was protected and that my followers were protected and that I'd spent a long time in this business and I wanted to make sure that it was Meta certified. And so I went through the process just like you do on on your Instagram account, and that you'll hear from them to confirm approval. And I got an email saying that I was approved. And I went through the process again. And of course, you have to type in your authentication and all your codes. Gosh. And then it was gone within 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm so glad that you're past that and that, again, like you learned a lot.
And then I set up a second account like a month or two later. And then that one was also hacked.
No way.
And it wasn't hacked. My protection was so high that the minute I posted a wedding, I think it was a mix of photos. It was some from the photographer and some from our team. And they did not like it. They thought it was a suspicious post and they took it down.
Oh my God, Mary.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you doing anything different today?
I'm just staying as simple as possible and with intention. Any work needs to be, of course, credited, which we credit every photographer. But I think we now are so particular on our posts that everything is just really clean and really intentional.
That makes sense. I do a lot of advertising because my business is obviously a service, but also a product. So I serve about 1,000 brides per year. And I kid you not, when I started, my return on investment with Meta ads was 20x. I would spend $1, I would get 20. I mean, it was like unheard of in any industry.
Wow.
And right now it's not that way at all. I'm lucky if I get, 5x, lucky, which is still a great return on investment. But depending on an algorithm that is ever changing, you just never know if Instagram is not going to like something and they just shadow ban you and something like that. But it's really important to know that you should not put all your eggs in one basket. So as you said, like continue to network, to continue to elevate yourself by educating yourself, go take clients to lunches and coffee. Like those relationships matter so much. And I think that's something that you have built for yourself and people know it when they see you and they learn about your story too.
Yeah. And I feel like elevating yourself to a whole nother level. It's not all about education. It's elevating what you already know.
Right.
And if you don't know it, then go to that hotel and see where their new venue is, or they renovated their ballroom, and reconnect with that venue and reconnect with the vision that they've created and understand the layouts so that you're more educated when you're selling to a client that venue, or a new restaurant that's in town and that your client was just bragging about in the meeting. Go to that restaurant and really understand why they love it and the food, the flavor profiles. I mean, we've had clients that have pushed us to do so many really cool things at menus that have really allowed our chefs to be so creative, and they love it. They love being tested and challenged because they're all tired of doing the cookie cutter banquet menu. They do want to step out of their box and their comfort zone sometimes. Not all the time, but I feel like the more our weddings become more higher profile or higher luxury in style, then they're wanting more curated details. So I think educating yourself, elevating yourself, but then engaging yourself in the opportunities that you have around you is so important.
I love that. Mary, thank you so much for being here today. Where can people find you and connect with you?
They can, of course, find us on our Instagram. It's @DiamondAffairs_ at the end. And then, of course, email or text.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you again. If you like this episode, make sure that you follow and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.